Well, hello, family. This is Miss Joyce, and welcome to another episode of Family Talk, the place where I share suggestions and ideas and questions that you can use to extend the conversation at home about this week's Bible story. Well, we've been talking about Daniel for the past few weeks, and we're doing it again this week. Daniel chapter 7 is where we were focusing today. And of course, Daniel is in the Old Testament, and the book bears his name. In chapter 7 of Daniel, we find that he had a dream about 4 terrifying beasts. And these beasts represented 4 powerful nations that ruled over and made trouble for God's people. And we know out of this chapter 2 that God is the eternal King who judges the nations. Our big picture question for this unit has been, why do we pray? And the answer, of course, is we pray because we trust God and we know He hears us. You'll see that lived out and in this story this week. Some questions that you can ask your children would be, 1, why does God allow some rulers to do evil things? 2, how does God protect us from evil? 3, how do we know God will destroy all evil someday? Another question you can ask is, what did God tell Daniel his dream meant? And what makes Jesus the King of Kings? And finally, how is Jesus better than earthly rulers? For our older children, you might ask, what are some things that you can pray about knowing that God, the eternal King, hears you when you pray? And then to ask, why should you trust God? Final question for our older children is, which of God's promises in Daniel 7 might encourage them in difficult situations? Some activities. You can do a little research as a family about kingdoms such as the Babylonian, the Romans, or the British empires, and look at where the empires were on the map and talk about how Jesus will rule forever. Another activity is to use some yellow construction paper and plastic adhesive gemstones to make crowns with your family, and allow each child to make his or her own crown and discuss what it means for Jesus to be King of Kings over everything. Other connections you might be able to make in this week's lesson would be trusting God in difficult situations, or talking about prayer again and why we pray and how did we see that working out in this particular story. Talk about kings and kingdoms, and again, this is where your research as a family would pay off. Well, that's it for this week. Join us next week as we take on Obadiah, prophet over Israel, and we'll be learning an answer to an age-old question: why do wicked prosper while the righteous suffer? Tune in. We love to meet you here. Have a great week. Bye for now.